everybody. My name is Jason Stella, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Training Podcast, and I am very excited to bring to you today Emily Aceves. She's one of our trainers here at Lifetime. She's got a bachelor's in kinesiology. She's NASM, CPT, PES, and CES, and also has a specialty with multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Emily. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you today, Jason?
I'm doing great, man. I'm very excited. You're really the kickoff of the trainer series. And really this is all about giving people, experiences and knowledges and, that they've gone through. And I know that you've worked at several different places throughout your career. So I'd love for you to just share that, how did you get started in this business and tell us your journey?
Man, I have to kick it all the way back when it's how I got started. I was that 5-year-old with older brothers that were lifting for football, and I'd be like in the corner, and they'd be egging me on to work out with them, things like that. So that's really like my roots of I knew I wanted to be active kind of all the way through. It just stuck with me. But really when it comes to career wise, I went to college at LA Pierce. Junior college was really had a great volleyball program at the time, and I played 2 years there, and I fell in love with strength and conditioning. That was when I first had my big taste. I'd worked out before, but that was the first structured program I had. Yep. So from there I decided, okay, I'm going to go kinesiology for my major. I want to figure out some way that I can stay in this field. And then during that time I was recruited by 24 Hour Fitness and became a personal trainer through them. And, kind of did it part-time, which we all know is not always the most successful. Did it part-time for them.
That's a great point.
Yeah. And then I ended up just sticking with that company, having a really good runway with them, promoting into some management positions with them, and then eventually getting a job offer to kind of help a startup studio really get their foundation in and kind of bring some, different perspectives to the table. Worked with them for about 2 years. Recruited back to 24, which is definitely where I met you, which ultimately led me to Lifetime.
So that was we met when you came back for.
We met the first time around.
First time, that's what I thought. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so we were there the first time around, and then had a run-in with you kind of while I was working at Go Tribe. And then I just remember the message that it still popped up when you messaged me about this. It said, "Why are you back at 24? What about Lifetime?" And
I didn't say that.
Okay, never mind. We can cut that out. But just something, where I definitely came to Lifetime with an open mind. Living in California, there was only one location, so it was going to be a big move, a big transition in my life, and it was kind of perfect timing for it. So. That's really how I got to be in the company. Me and Natasha Swan sat down in San Clemente area, and it was just man, this company aligns with where I want to go. Their values align with me, their mission statement. That's really what attracted me to working here is you guys were career driven, but also very results focused through relationships with your staff and with your people. So that's the big win.
Yeah. The only knock is that you didn't come to Arizona with me and you went to Texas, right?
I know. I wanted to live in Texas for so long. I couldn't resist.
No, I get it. It's one of the two, right? Right now with California, everybody's moving out and coming to either Texas or Arizona. No, that's great. So, you mentioned some of those experiences and what can you expand upon? What were the things that, kept you going? Obviously you mentioned part-time. That's a big one. A lot of people, a lot of organizations only hire part-time. But tell me about, what was it that really said, okay, this is my home, and this is, what I want to do.
I think the big click moment for me is I finished my kinesiology degree, so my schedule was able to open up a lot more. And I really was looking at going through to physical therapy. And I ended up started getting a lot busier as a trainer just because I wasn't part-time, I was working full-time. So I had those hours open. I was in the club a lot more. My relationships I had fostered now grew into personal training. And I really just fell in love with the job itself. Nothing against physical therapy, but I was like, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to go into debt. I was debt free at the time, which was awesome. And I really just wanted to stick in the trenches. Physical therapy, you're going to partner a lot with, rehab, kind of the same clientele where when you're in personal training, you get that big variety of, you have an athlete, you have a mom, you have a dad, you have your weight loss, you have your muscle gain. So I felt like I was going to be able to have my day-to-day a little bit more exciting. And also just to have that freedom of, I don't know, I can really attract any person I want. So
it's funny. We had, similar. I was an athletic trainer. When I was going to school, they didn't have athletic training as a major. So I was a biology major with athletic training. And my senior year, I was playing basketball as well in college. And I ended up seeing, and I was first to respond to a compound fracture on the football field. And I'm like, nope, that's not what I want to do. And I was lucky. I got certified through NESM when I was a sophomore in high school. So it was great.
And see, I love that first response. So I did my EMT certification. And so anytime we have anything that happens, it's always like, where's Emily? So.
Well, there's first response, and then there's a compound in the tip.
Yeah.
So that's great. So, you mentioned a couple things that I want to key in on. You had mentioned, that you've lifted, you played sports. I believe you also used to do some figure competitions as well. I guess talk to us about, how that whole world fits into kind of who you are and your personal brand.
I am so thankful that I've done a lot of dabbling, and I'm not great at any of it. I will say that without any
that's where you got to give yourself
it.
some credit, because I saw some of those pictures. You were pretty lean.
You can get lean, but that whole stage presence thing, that's a whole nother beast. I really think what it's helped me do is because I played volleyball for so long, and this was really before recovery was really a part of anybody's program. It was just go hard. Oh, you sprained your ankle. Let's get you taped up and you're heading back out there. So by the time I hit 25, everything hurt. Like I couldn't box jump anymore. And I was a volleyball player. Like I had a great vertical, and it was just something where it's like, I couldn't do a lot of the stuff I wanted to do. So it was figuring out how to train around it. And then I was really lucky to work with some extremely smart people. And they really helped me learn more of like the rehab and corrective work, and then getting my CES. So I think having that background in sports to be competitive, I'm really competitive, ask any one of my coworkers. And then also to have that, I've had to train for sport performance. And then I've done those bodybuilding shows. So I've had to train in more of the science performance, not necessarily I can go run 10 miles performance. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And then I dabbled a little bit with trying to do Spartan races, did a couple, and I was like, I'm good. I'm not a runner. We're fine. So I'll stick on anything else but running. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I did a triathlon for the first time. My father had passed away, and on his birthday was the triathlon. It was the lifetime one. And I remember going through it and running, and it was just, I was cramping. It wasn't the best experience, but I finished, and it was an Olympic. So it was good.
There you go.
Okay. So, you've had success everywhere you've gone, all three of the places that I've known you. And I would love for you to share with the audience and the trainers out there, what are the takeaways? Like, what are the things that, you at your age now and what you've gone through experience wise, what do you attribute that success to? And who are the people that influenced you, that educated you? Like, who are those people that, you were fortunate enough to understand and learn from?
Yeah. I can still remember being 19 when I got hired and walking into our break room, and we had this big whiteboard when I first started my job, and it had every trainer's name on it, their total revenue, their sessions, kind of just everything in that way. And looking at those top names and going, I want to do that. I want to be that person on the top. And just watching them, watching how they walked on the floor, watching what they did with their clients, watching those interactions. And I really think what held me back in the beginning of my career is I knew how to train people. I didn't know how to talk to people, and I didn't know how to connect to people. That was really my big thing that I wish someone would have just told me. You need to work on your conversation skills, on your communication skills, on your people skills, so that way you can take all the science and all the knowledge you have and actually help people. Because if we don't have that as our base, it doesn't matter what you know. You can be the best trainer, but no one's going to work with you. So I really wish that was the big thing somebody had really impressed on me in the beginning. And then if you know me, I'm pretty passionate about this. It's kind of like a day in, day out thing. Work is not work. It's a lifestyle, which I know is super cliche, but it's true.
I said we get to wear pajamas to work. What better than
I know. I brag about that all the time. I'm like, what other job can you like be casual every single day?
Yeah.
But no, it just, Man, I lost my train of thought with that one.
No, that's right. Just who was your success? You were talking about,
those top
the
trainers
leaderboards and the top trainers. Yep.
Yeah. And then I think really what kicked it off is I was not successful when I transferred locations from my hometown that I'd grown up into like the big market of LA. I was just another trainer there. And that's where I really learned about branding. I remember this one girl was in there and she was not the best trainer ever. She had everyone do the same exact program from 50 to 5, it's the same thing. Yep. And it was her personality and her ability to connect with people. And I think she really made it make sense for me because then I realized like, okay, you can get people better results, but she knows how to talk to people. So that's really where me being the shy, raised, ultra conservative Christian girl needed to learn how to be a little more vocal and have a little bit more fun in that way and get out of my bubble. Yeah. So I think she was one of the first trainers that I really noticed that with. Yep. And then I had 2 FMs while I was working there, Khalid El-Masari and then Rob Knight. Khalid taught me so much program design wise that I really felt my growth to impact more people other than just athletes or strength training really developed, and I felt more comfortable prescribing programs. And then Rob Knight taught me business. He taught me how to break down my business, how to understand how to grow my business, because I didn't really feel like it clicked. I'm sure everyone else before that explained it, but he was the first one where he helped me look at the small day-to-day tasks to equal into those big results. So I was just lucky to work with some people that had been in the field and done very well with it. So I can keep going about it, but there's so many people.
That, so fluidly this came out of your mouth, and I'm got to ask the question if it's just ingrained in your mind that way or if you're purposely doing it or both. But, most people, when you would say communication and the ability to talk to people and the ability to communicate with people, a lot of people will say that's sales. But you didn't say that. And that's where I think, sales and business is a huge aspect of being successful in anything. And you see doctors, they're the same way. Their doctors are not making money. They're phenomenal doctors, but they don't know how to run that business, and they don't know how to sell. They don't know how to do those things. And so I love how you fully believe it's just about communication and the ability to connect with people. And then you're not really selling anything if you believe in what you're doing, but it is a missing piece, and I always say there's 5 areas in my mind that are must-haves to be able to be successful in the business. One, you have to have a vision and a purpose and something bigger than I just want to help people. That's the common thing. But what is that thing that's driving you to be where you need to be? You have to be organized. Everybody wants a lot of clients until they get a lot of clients. And then next thing you know, they're double booking and they're missing sessions, and, the experience goes, and then they're like, oh, well, it's too much money. The client said, no, it wasn't too much money. It was, what you're doing. And then, obviously there's the ability to retain clients and get new clients. And then there's the continuing education and so many people follow continuing education that they're passionate about as opposed to education that maybe they need. That's a gap, but it's a vital behavior in being successful. So, in saying that and thinking through that, I guess what you were saying is in the beginning you were technically sound, but the business or the sales wasn't there, and you learned that. But but I know you keep going. So what is it now, and what keeps you driving and keeps you moving forward?
I feel like every time I take a step to where I'm learning something new, it really does open up the I know nothing. So it's that, like, one of my strengths is learner, and I feel like I can constantly learn. I feel like I can always just observe, even the staff around me. We have a small staff right now, but we are so strong, and it's like, it's so fun working with the staff right now because I can watch any one of them on the floor and be like, this is how I can get better. This is how I need to. And I think it does go back to that I'm competitive. So I want to be the best that I can, me personally. But I think that big drive for me is just, I want to deliver. My clients are trusting me. My teammates are trusting me to take care of these people and to help keep our reputation there. And so it's coming down to an integrity thing. Like, if you give me a client and I know nothing about them, or they have something that I know nothing about, I'm going to make sure I know something about it before I meet with them. So I think it's just having that want or that desire to, okay, I can do it, and having that self-confidence to go and just, all right, I'm going to swing for the fences. So.
Awesome. Great. Through all the different pieces of education, I know there's a couple of huge ones that I've had, and I call them just the aha moments. And one of them I went through a course called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition by a guy named Reed Davis, and he had broken down the steroid hormone pathway and of stress and sex and inflammation and cholesterol, and it had everything to do with that. And I'm just like, wait a minute. How come more people don't know that? How come doctors don't discuss that? And I just remember that. But, has there been any aha moments, from your perspective that were like, man, gosh, that is so valuable. I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago.
I feel like there's too many to pinpoint just one right now.
Yeah.
I really think it's going to go back to when I was working with Khalid and him just really being able to, he did a lot of FMS based stuff, but him being able to break it down into those simple building blocks. And understanding just those sling system patterns, because a lot of times with our clients, like, this is hurting because something else is happening. I love the Ida Rolfa quote where it's like, where you think it is, it isn't, and Perry Nicholson talks a lot about that. He's Stop Chasing Pain on Instagram. And I feel like him explaining even just the pattern of pain, so emotional or physical, that was another huge aha moment of when we have people constantly under stress and they're firing that same kind of impulse pattern, then that's a bigger reason. So it can be emotional and they had a tough emotional conversation and they come in and everything is tense, everything is tight because it's reverting right back into that pattern. So I think that's where my relationships are what help me retain and get clients is I listen to that part and then treat kind of I'm not a doctor, but I kind of work through the physical kind of manifestations that it's taking. So.
Yeah. And I've said this a couple other times is in the other podcasts, but there's been this evolution of training, 25 years ago or so, when I got certified, it was 96. We were all bodybuilders. Everybody was a bodybuilder. That was a trainer and you were a bodybuilder. Then it went into corrective exercise and that boom, and physical therapists started getting upset because we were kind of maybe doing some stuff that, but then some of the top physical therapists were ones teaching us to go and do it. And then, then it became nutrition and, from the work of John Berardi and him really opening the floodgates to say, hey, there's a lot more that trainers can and should and must do from a nutritional aspect. And then finally now, it's that behavioral modification and mental health boom that it's at now. So, the scope is so vast right now in continually learning. With that, would you say you have your, a niche that you focus on, or have you been successful really dealing with a very general population?
So I definitely have a niche. It is a middle-aged male who wants to lose weight and has a ton of emotional stress that he doesn't want to admit. That is like my bread and butter. For some reason, they're like, you're strong. I'm going to work with you. You're going to kick my butt. And I'm like, yeah, but we're going to do a lot of stretching because you can't even pull your hands over your head. We're going to do a lot of stability work because you can't even stand on one leg. You can go squat, whatever you want. But so kind of breaking it down into that, I really think that's my niche. And I think because I came from such a injured place as an athlete, that I really want to help people with their longevity. So I think that's really kind of, if you could term what I do is we're going to train for longevity. We're going to train so that way you can maintain this for a long time. We're not going to just do, oh, you lost 10 pounds in a month and you can never do that again. And now you're emotionally upset because you can't get those same results. So I think that's really kind of, if I could term where my success is.
Well, and the reason I brought it up too, is I think you being able to pinpoint it the way that you did, I think is a huge reason of why you're as successful as you are too, because without, a lot of people would just go after whomever it is. And then they're not known for anything. I was golf and corrective. Those were my two niches. And then it morphed into, getting them as a long-term client again I term it well-being. That's what I love right now. And in that being in a state of health, happiness, both mentally and physically and socially. And really, I think as we're growing, as we're aging in experience, we're starting to realize that I'm okay with a 4-pack and not a 6-pack, but I feel better.
Yeah.
I had to take some time off because of a shoulder injury, and I go and deadlift, and my son and his friends were there. So I figured, let me throw it on there. And of course I threw it on there. And now when I get off this chair, I could barely get up. So got to quit that.
Yep. I feel you on that. I was like, I work out 6 days a week, you know, my rest day, maybe I'll go do some cardio, you know, okay, I work out, you know, 4 or 5 times a week. Those rest days are crucial for me to keep going. So
awesome.
I need it.
That's great. Well, you know, in comparing all the different experiences that you've had, you know, how do you compare them in kind of, if you were to look at what you've kind of learned from each experience? You've worked in a club setting, you've worked in a studio setting, now you're back in a club setting. You know, what do you compare, and why do you choose Lifetime? You know, that's a big one, because there's so many people that have your credentials, that have your experience, that are like, heck no, I'm not working at Lifetime. You know, so you know, a lot of questions I guess I asked right there, but you know, what can you say there?
I really think each place that I've worked really has prepared me for Lifetime. Because we like to have a studio mindset within a club. We want it to be personal. We want to have the small group training. We want to really create a different culture here, where 24 taught me my sales and business aspect very well. And then Go Tribe taught me the relationship aspect and the self-care aspect, because we forget about our own self-care as trainers a lot of the time. So they really instilled that in me. And then coming back to Lifetime, it was me taking my own experience, and then from all those people that I've learned from. I mean, I've learned from great people that have really poured into me, and I owe them so much. And it's really helped me step back into Lifetime and be like, all right, I can pull from here and I can pull from here. This person did this, that was best practices, but I like this better. So that kind of helped fine tune experience wise. The reason I picked Lifetime is you guys are a great company. Like, you really still have that small company feel when it comes to how you connect with your employees. And that's something really important to me, is I want to know as an employee that when I step into a location, I'm not just another face. I'm not another number that's going to be replaced and forgotten about and swept under the rug. And you guys pay well. I'll be completely upfront with that. When you look at working at any other corporation, I don't know any corporation that takes care of their employees as well, that offers full-time benefits, that offers a full-time schedule. Those are huge things. Like, when I think about making this a career, that offer, you know, 24, if you don't have a client, you're out. You know, you don't get paid for that time unless you're allotted your, you know, non-session time or things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I wanted something where I had better stability. And I loved everything that Lifetime offered. We don't just focus on personal training. We have metabolics, we have our nutrition, we have these things, we have our recovery zones now, where it's, okay, now I can actually take my client and give them a full, you know, treatment of what they need. I can refer to, you know, everything that I need in one spot instead of having to refer out of club.
Love it.
So,
you know, that was a big surprise. You know, obviously I've been with Lifetime for 18 years, and my first 14, and then I took a hiatus, and, you know, is where I met you at 24. And the one thing that really blew me away was how the system was set up, where newer trainers were given the hourly wage to go out and meet people. But then after about 3 months or so, that shut down. And if you didn't build up your business, then, you know, it was straight referral, and that was the only way you could get it. So, you know, that's one thing that, like, just baffled me, that why would we do that? It's kind of backwards, in how to be able to do that. So that, you know, that's what I love too. And I was the same way. When I first started, it was 1 year and I'm out and I'm starting my own business. And then, you know, now I'm a lifer clever guy, club guy. Well, I did DJ, but no, that's a whole nother story for another podcast.
I can see that. You already got the headphones.
Yeah, exactly. These are, yeah. So awesome. So, you know, with regards to just kind of, you know, you mentioned goals. Do you have a client highlight, or a couple different people that you can highlight that just were some of your best stories and most successful? And maybe they didn't lose much weight, but it was just a turnaround. You obviously work with people with MS, you know, anything you've got there that you can share with the group.
My favorite story to this day is not weight loss or anything. I had a 89-year-old lady. I was working in Simi Valley at the time. I had this cute little old lady come in, and she could not brush her hair on her own. And I didn't know this when she started training with me. And she was like, I've never been in a gym. I want to start working out. And just taking her through like stretches, because like her balance was tough. So we were literally doing like, all right, bring your knee up to your chest as high as you can, you know, with a wall support, you know, kick your butt as much as you can, just baseline movements, getting her shoulders moving. And she came in after 2 weeks and she was crying, and it still makes me get really emotional. But she was like, I was able to brush my own hair. My husband didn't have to brush my hair for me. And to me, that's when my career shifted, because I realized training isn't about weight loss. It's not about strength gain or being the best in the gym. It's that quality of life, like what you're offering for people. That's really the big, this is why I stick with it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's about all those things, obviously, but it's the impact that you're making on somebody, and just, it's amazing, which is going to lead me into my next question perfectly, and not by design, but of how essential really we are, you know, and in how we're not seen as essential, and how we're just seen as these, you know, I guess the old school bodybuilder mentality, you know, and kind of the question I have is, you know, since coming back from COVID and having all of that, you know, what has been different in your world? Obviously you've come back and you're doing fantastic already in what we've been back a couple of months or so in Dallas. But, you know, tell me about the difference there and what you've done to, you know, really be as successful, you know, as you are currently.
The only thing that's different is I'm able to take more time with people. Coming back in, it was a really nice reset, because I was able to basically start from ground one again, as if I'd never been training. My organization was much better. And I was able to be slowed down because I wasn't so busy right when I came back, that I was able to just rebuild a lot of relationships. Very thankful I have a great existing clientele that did return with me. And then I've been getting just referrals, and I've been having just members on the floor who are watching me train coming up and being like, oh, I want to train with you. And that's, if I can offer an insert of advice, every time you are on the floor, whether you are training or not, you are a walking advertisement. How you greet people, how you smile, how you carry yourself. Like, even when you're working out, if you're not inspiring people or pushing or just doing, you know, not something crazy, but just taking care of yourself that's just the biggest thing. And really, it's just fostering those relationships I built. So I can't say I've changed a whole lot of who I am or the day-to-day tactics. It's just, I've been able to spend a little bit more time with people.
But there's so much there that I don't want to pass up on is the awareness, your awareness of exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, and how you're doing it is what I think a lot of people don't pay attention to. You know, you mentioned something that I would argue now is probably even more prevalent than even before. We were always on stage, right? We were always being looked at, but now there is, I mean, you know, from last I heard, we got about 75% of our membership base back nationally, which is unheard of and phenomenal. But at the end of the day, there's less people in the building. So you're even more on stage because there's less people. And if you can have that influence, and the people that are there want to be there, need to be there, you know? And so, you know, I think you just being aware of how you engage with a member. Are you sitting down? Are you staring at your phone or your iPad or the TVs? And like those little things that I think sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it sometimes, because it's easy to get distracted in our clubs. But to not do that, people will notice that. And, you know, obviously probably another reason why you're as successful as you are.
I'll never forget, Tom Brewer, he was a fitness guy that, one of, I think, the best piece of advice is using an old school watch that has a timer on it. So you can be talking with your clients the whole time and never have to really, you just hit your button and go. And that's one thing that I'm seeing so much more is our iWatches, our iPhones. Like, even if it's buzzing, it's distracting you, and that person is paying for your hour. You should have zero time where you're not focused on that person. So just doing what's right for your member.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, you know, really, you know, what advice would you give someone who's trying to, you know, find a place to build their career as a health and fitness professional? You know, what advice would you give them?
Man, go where you think you're going to be successful. Don't go somewhere just because somebody's told you it's great, or like you look from the outside and you just see like, oh, that's a beautiful facility. Go somewhere where you feel like you're going to be successful, or you feel like you're going to learn, because that's when you are going to be successful and learn, because you actually believe you will. I think that's the big thing. And then know that company's values and their mission before you start. Because if that does not align, then no matter what your success is, you're not going to be happy at that company. And I think that's really where I've enjoyed Lifetime so much, is I just feel like it's on pace with where I want to be in my career. So,
well, and one thing that I want to add to that, is that you did your homework. So there's, obviously when companies get as big as, we are, when 24 was 500 clubs, 400 or 500 clubs,
Mm-hmm.
the mission and the vision might be there, but that doesn't mean that the club is necessarily always in alignment and in doing what the mission and vision always says, or even that manager. So, the one thing I respect the hell out of you is that you interviewed us as much as, we interviewed you, and you went to several different locations, whether it was Arizona, California, Texas, to figure out what is going to be the right fit. Not just, hey, I live close to here, I'm going to go there, and so be it. So finding, your fit, your management style, and how that interacts with the general manager or the fitness manager is huge as well. And I don't think enough people do that.
Yeah. You got to be happy in your job, because it's a lot of time you spend working, especially as fitness professionals. We have crazy hours sometimes. So if you're not happy, you're not going to enjoy it. So.
Yeah. Got it. So, obviously some things with Lifetime that they've recently launched, and I'm just curious how, what is your interaction with some of, whether it was group training, whether it's the virtual online coaching, things like that, we offer that a lot of our other organizations don't. And also sometimes people with tenure sometimes, kind of say, that's not for me right now. Or, where are you sitting with that? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. I am so happy that we finally have virtual online training where it's live. And that's one thing that I will say GoTribe is way ahead of the game. Is that was their huge platform, really fostering that. And they're ahead of us still when it comes to just their ability to do that. And so being able to learn from that, and now having that platform available, it's great. I still think we could make it a subscription app, and we'd have a lot more success in it that way. But, just something where it's like, now we're able to really reach people on a whole different level, people that travel, even your clientele that's traveling, or, hey, I can't get a babysitter, my kid can't come into kids care, whatever it is, in that way. So I think that's a huge thing. Like, that's a great thing that we have. We just had one of our new trainers, he picked up a online client that he would have been losing. A girl that moved to Austin, same thing now, she's able to retain with me. So that really plugs a big puzzle piece of, okay, I don't have to keep rebuilding clients, because my clients can go anywhere and they can still be my clients. I think the small group training, I love group training because, again, it fosters that team. So now you don't just have that accountability of you and your trainer, it's you and everyone else in that class. And you can really make it that community, which I think is so often what people want. Is they want community, they want a place to be at home. Not everyone goes to a church. So this is a good way for them to kind of have that little home group in a way. And so I think that is one of our big things that we could capitalize even more on, and just getting more fit pros to really see the advantage and how that helps you with your retention of a lower price point, but it's just as good of a product. And I don't want to say that in like a casual way, but it's like, anytime I meet with someone, I'm like, you got to try small group training, because you're going to be hooked and you're going to do it forever. And that's really where that client retention, and once they do that for a couple of months, they're like, oh, I want to add in 1 or 2 sessions a week with you. And that's really where we start supplementing it. Yep. So,
I got 2 more. One, we got to give a shout out to Chris, who started GoTribe. He's a friend of mine
Chris
as well.
And Jacob.
Too. Yeah. And Cricket and the rest of them. So awesome job there for what you guys are doing. You mentioned you guys have been doing virtual training. You did virtual training there. What can you give the audience from a tip, with regards to how I train virtually versus how you train in person? And is there a couple of nuances that you can, give them? Because we are also going to be launching, I know they're testing it, virtual or video-based group training as well.
Yeah.
I know that that's going down. So any advice you can give in either or both of those areas?
So there's 2 big things, and I learned this from GoTribe, so I have to give them full credit for this, because this is what they excel in. Is you have to be so much more over animated when you're online, because if I sit here and just count and I'm like, great job, you're doing great, keep it up. Or sometimes when you're in person, you don't always have to say something because your presence is there. You can tap cue, you can kind of do those things. You have to be talking the whole time, because when there's dead space, it's even more noticeable. And then the person's like, did you freeze? Are you still there? Like, what's going on? Yeah. So that's like a really big thing. And just understanding that your personality has to be 20 times more when you're online. You have to be talking that whole time. I think if we just take that and you kind of take your training style and do that, that's just the biggest tip I can
Got
give.
it. That's awesome. That's a great tip. Yeah. When in doing these podcasts, it's funny when you think you're taking a pause, you're actually not. And it's the time is a weird thing when you're videotaping. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I can't thank you enough. This has been awesome and very excited, you know, for us to finally lock this down. But anything else that you have or anything that you want to share with the audience and, you know, the people out there listening?
Man, this is like hot seat moment.
Yeah, I know it.
No, just do it. Like, get out of your own head, get out of your own way, like put your ego aside, learn something different and go do it. Like the simple saying, just do hard things. Like do something hard every day. It doesn't have to be something big. It's just something little that gets you out of your comfort zone, and you're going to be surprised with where you are. And I don't care how cliche I sound or whatever,
No,
but
man,
that's really what it boils down to.
It's only cliche because people just don't do it enough, right? And
Yeah.
you got to keep saying it until they get it. So thank you so much for your time. And I know we were trying to book this thing and it was a couple of times. So thank you again. And hopefully, you know, we'll be getting this out and, you know, hopefully we see you become even more successful. You're a leader. I know that and can't wait to see you in those roles. Thank you.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks.